There's a side of women most men will never see. And the few who do, they either go insane or they wake up. See, what Freud and Jung warned us about isn't about women themselves. It's about the shadow inside them. Not the girl next door, not the romantic ideal you built in your head, but the unconscious, the primal force, the manipulator in disguise. You don't see her because you're not supposed to. She doesn't seduce with her body. She seduces with vulnerability, with emotional leverage, with absence, with confusion. And if you're a man who's been used, drained, turned inside out and left asking, "What did I do wrong?" This video is for you. By the end of this, you'll understand the hidden feminine tactics that shape your desires. You'll see how power isn't just about strength. It's about control. And the most dangerous control is psychological, because it doesn't feel like control. It feels like love, like attention, like approval. Freud called it emotional incest. Jung called it anima possession. I call it the invisible cage. If you've ever felt addicted to a woman who didn't love you back, if you've ever chased her validation like oxygen, you're not weak, you're hypnotized. And it's time to wake up. You were kind, you were patient, you gave everything she didn't even ask for. And still, you were left behind like an old coat. You tried to talk it out. She gave you silence. You asked what was wrong. She said nothing, but you felt it. That sinking gut, that emotional distance, like you were talking to a ghost who used to hold your hand. You told yourself, if I just try harder, if I give her space, if I fix myself. But you were already walking on eggshells, and still she controlled the room. With a look, with a sigh, with the way she didn't text back for 8 hours, just to say I was busy. You felt like you were going crazy, like love was some game where you didn't know the rules, because she never told you the rules. She showed them with punishment, with withdrawal, with weaponized softness. And you kept chasing the version of her that didn't exist anymore. You kept chasing the memory of how she made you feel before she flipped the script. Let me give you the truth that Freud hinted at, and Jung explored in the shadows of the soul. The female psyche is not just nurturing and warm. It is also chaotic, cunning, and dual-natured. Carl Jung warned of the anima, the feminine image inside a man's psyche. She appears as a muse, a lover, an innocent. But if you project her onto a real woman, you don't see her clearly. You see your fantasy, and in doing so, you blind yourself to the red flags. You ignore the manipulation, the passive aggression, the guilt tripping, the control through emotion. Freud went even deeper. He believed men are drawn to women because they remind us of something ancient, the mother. Not in a literal sense, but in emotional imprinting. When a woman comforts you, loves you unconditionally for a while, gives you safety, then withholds it, your inner child panics, and you confuse attention for intimacy. You confuse control for care. You go back, again and again, to the woman who makes you feel like a boy, because deep down, you're not trying to sleep with her. You're trying to be seen by her, and that is how the game begins. So how do you defend yourself? How do you stop falling into these psychological traps? Without turning bitter? Without becoming cold? Let me give you 3 mindset laws that saved my soul. Law 1, stop chasing emotional highs. If she makes you feel like you're on a roller coaster, you're not in love, you're addicted. Highs and lows aren't intimacy, they're manipulation. Real connection feels safe. It feels boring to your wounded ego, but it feels calm to your nervous system. Law 2, never confuse silence with peace. Some women don't scream or shout. They control with subtle guilt, with disappearing acts, with cold detachment. That's not maturity. That's emotional warfare. Passive aggression is still aggression. Silence can be louder than violence. Law 3, don't rescue her from her shadow. If she's wounded, if she uses trauma as a shield, if she makes her pain your responsibility, walk away. You can empathize without being the therapist. You can care without becoming the crutch. Remember, a man who rescues a broken woman often ends up breaking himself. So many men suffer in silence, not because they're weak, but because they were trained to be protectors. And when you protect the wrong woman, You start fighting a battle against yourself. You lose your identity. You become a shell of the man you once were. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So ask yourself, how many times did you fall in love with an illusion? How many times did you ignore your gut because she smiled sweetly while breaking you in half? And how many more times will you keep calling that pain love? If this spoke to something buried inside you, don't just scroll away. Share this with a man who needs to hear it. Comment below with your story, because your voice might be the wake-up call for someone still in the fog. And subscribe, not because I asked you to, but because deep down, you know there's more to unlearn, more shadows to face, more parts of yourself that deserve to rise again, like a warrior pulling his sword from the heart that once broke him. The dark psychology of women is real, but so is your power to see through it and to never bow to it again.